I call Dennis O'Rourke.
Mr Speaker, New Zealand First will continue to support this bill, and we have supported it from the beginning because we think that support has been well justified. I'm glad to see that all of the other opposition parties have now seen their way clear to support it as well, because we think this is a good piece of legislation. The major change concerns the roles of the commissioners, and there must be a commissioner to lead each of the priority areas, but they will now not lose their designation in their specialised areas as some had feared. And so I suppose that's a good thing. I don't think it's such a huge deal myself, but it is a good thing, and that change has been made. The permanent priority areas are disability rights, equal employment opportunities and race relations. But the Chief Commissioner will now be able to designate a commissioner to lead work in other priority areas of human rights. And we in New Zealand First are particularly pleased about that, and it's why we have supported the bill from the beginning, because the expansion of the work of the Human Rights Commission into other areas of human rights is exactly fundamental to New Zealand First policy and exactly what this bill does. So we're very pleased by it, and as I've said, we've always supported it for that reason. And I note also that in choosing those new areas, those new priority areas, the Chief Commissioner must consult, of course, with the other commissioners, which is natural, but also with the Minister. And I know that some have been concerned about that, but consultation actually isn't direction. And it is appropriate in these circumstances for the Minister to have input. And I've never been worried that in this context the Minister would ever have been able to direct the Commission. So I think that the concerns about that have been largely misplaced. Mr Speaker, the most important change to the Act, as I've said, is the ability to designate lead areas and other areas of human rights. And one of the reasons why New Zealand First is so pleased about that is that we're very concerned about some of those other areas, and one of them is elderly persons' rights. And for example, ageism is rife in New Zealand. Nothing's being done about it, and it needs attention. In addition to that, there is the whole area of elderly abuse. And elderly abuse is an equally extremely important problem in New Zealand, and I don't think it's being properly addressed, and perhaps the Human Rights Commission can do something about that. So we very much hope that one of the new priority areas which will be designated in the future will be that whole area relating to the rights of elderly people in New Zealand. Mr Speaker, these new priority areas must be chosen, and I quote Section 8(1)(b), quote, in accordance with the strategic direction and the general nature of activities determined by the Commission under Section 7(1), unquote. So that allows the Commissioner indeed to designate new priority areas, but the important thing, it has to be done in accordance with a strategy to be established and determined jointly by all of the Commissioners acting together. And New Zealand First, again, is particularly pleased by that approach, because while it allows the specialisation that is required, it also allows the Commission to act together to choose new priority areas. And as I've already said, that's particularly what New Zealand First has always wanted to happen. And finally, another important change that we particularly approve of is the need for appointment of suitable people in each of those new priority areas. And under new Section 13, I see that the Minister must have regard to the candidate's understanding of the principles and practice relating to the relevant priority area. Secondly, appreciation of the issues in the area internationally. And thirdly, the ability to carry out the functions specified in Section 16. And Mr Speaker, those have been amended too, and they relate to ensuring that the person has skills in leadership ability, and the ability to contribute to public debate in the particular area where that person has expertise. So we in New Zealand First feel that that's a very valuable addition to the legislation governing the Human Rights Commission. All too often in the past, I think there's been an element of political appointment to some of those human rights commissions, and that's not appropriate. We're glad to see that these criteria will now have to apply. That's very important. So, Mr. Speaker, I think that, and we have always thought that this is a good piece of legislation for the reasons I've already stated. We still support it. We are very happy to continue to support it now.